Here, entrepreneurship stops being a blind race and turns into a map. Consistency in habits, self-confidence backed by numbers, and motivational quotes as fuel, never as direction. The proposal is simple and harsh. Dismantle illusions, operate with a method, and harvest results without asking for permission. What no one told you. The one who speaks less negotiates more. The one who's unreadable sets the pace. The one with a predator's patience buys other people's fear at a discount. It's not about being cold-hearted. It's about being hot on method, leverage, positioning, and narrative that turn perception into real economic value. Entrepreneurship here is choice engineering, replacing brute effort with system design and turning scattered attention into consistent revenue. If it hurts to see effort without return, this is the cut that sets you free. Keep the essential. Reveal at the right time. Measure risk and shield culture so the game keeps moving even when you rest. The 9 cold laws don't ask for blind faith. They ask for protocol. A step-by-step any adult can apply with discipline, emotional control, and enough self-confidence to hold the line. Get ready. Once you see the board from the inside, it becomes hard to settle for crumbs. Your next move is learning how to bite at the right moment and build results that don't depend on your mood. Money has no sense of justice. It answers to the power of those who play strategically, not the merit of those who suffer quietly, or the emotional effort spilled on the pillow at night. On the entrepreneurship board, winners aren't the nice ones. They're the ones who combine discipline, consistency, and emotional control with a cold reading of the landscape, pursuing measurable results. That doesn't invalidate motivational quotes. It just puts them in the right place. Fuel, not steering wheel. The mentor smiles and says, self-confidence is the engine, but strategy is the steering wheel. And without a steering wheel, even a Ferrari crashes. If money obeys power, the question shifts. How do you build power without violating the visible rules of the game? He explains that power comes from position, information, and timing, not noise, not demands for recognition. Whoever controls their anxiety decides better, ends their sentences early, listens a lot, and acts only when probability is already tilted in their favor, like a disciplined operator who aims for results, not likes. Thriving entrepreneurship turns emotion into leverage. Every yes and every no becomes data for the next play. Motivational phrases keep the flame alive, but micro-decisions made consistently generate the compound interest of credibility. Self-confidence here isn't bravado. It's math applied to context, repeated until it becomes reputation. He provokes, justice is a social narrative. Power is behavioral engineering applied in environments with clear incentives. That's why emotional control becomes a financial asset. Those who don't react, negotiate. Those who don't beg, price. Those who don't overshare, keep margins. The discipline of saying less and doing more gives the brain space to calculate, and it's that consistency that converts perception into results. In the end, entrepreneurship isn't a race of who feels the most. It's chess played by those who see the best. And if strategy is the steering wheel, the next step is dismantling the illusions that make so many people drive with their headlights off. He teaches that intelligence alone doesn't close the books. Hard work without strategy turns into a treadmill, and luck without preparation evaporates like fog under the market sun. The game demands entrepreneurship with discipline, consistency, and emotional control to transform energy into predictable results, not spikes of euphoria and collapse. Motivational quotes are sparks, but what moves the vehicle is self-confidence grounded in method and simple metrics. It's common to confuse effort with progress, but progress is distance to the goal, not sweat on a shirt. When the mind gets that, the body stops fighting the clock and starts negotiating with probabilities. The second illusion is believing that visibility equals power, when often it only exposes weaknesses and behavior patterns others can exploit. The mentor points out, emotional control isn't robotic coldness. It's choosing when to feel and when to act, keeping consistency in the plan. Entrepreneurship that grows has less improvisation and more routines that protect energy, create discipline, and convert attention into results. Motivational phrases help you get up, but the checklist keeps you walking. Self-confidence becomes a contract with your own future. Promise, deliver, repeat. The third illusion is thinking good intentions pay bills. Execution with clear priorities and intelligent trade-offs does. Those who play seriously trade urgency for cadence, anxiety for schedule, and use discipline to make every minute serve an economic goal. Mature entrepreneurship measures, learns, and adjusts using emotional control to stay focused when noise tries to dictate the rhythm. Motivational quotes then become reminders that sustain consistency, and self-confidence becomes armor against distraction. And as illusions fall, space opens to study the laws that actually move the board. He calls them cold laws, because they work even when no one is watching. Silence as pressure, unreadability to confuse forecasts, predator patience, leverage, narrative, substitution, illusion, exploitation, retention. In entrepreneurship, this becomes routine. Talk less, observe more, and use discipline to hold your tongue when emotion wants the stage. Motivational phrases remind you of the direction, but consistency turns self-confidence into real results. With emotional control to withstand the discomfort of a long game. Each law cuts like a blade. Method is the handle that keeps you from bleeding. And yes, those who apply these laws create a symmetry. They receive more than they show. Silence as pressure means avoiding overexposure and letting the other person fill the gaps with concessions and useful info. Being unreadable protects your strategy. If people can't read you, they can't corner you. Preserving self-confidence and emotional control in negotiations. Predator patience organizes time. You don't hunt every day, you hunt on the right day, with discipline to say no to urgency and yes to price. Leverage expands your reach. People, capital, media, technology. The goal is multiplying impact without multiplying hours. Entrepreneurship is playing with variables others ignore but that pay when aligned. Narrative and illusion shape beliefs. Whoever defines the story defines perceived value, and perceived value is price, margin, and power. Substitution trades sweat for system design, where other people's work becomes an asset that grows revenue even in silence. Exploitation is turning inefficiencies, fear, and wasted attention into revenue through consistency. Retention is revealing little to keep mystique and bargaining power. Exposure without purpose is cost. As these laws settle, he teases, "Want to see how silence and unreadability turn into money on the table?" He advises, "Talk little to harvest concessions, listen a lot to collect data, and keep unreadability as a shield against manipulation attempts." In entrepreneurship, this becomes a competitive edge. Whoever controls their words controls the tempo and protects emotional control. Discipline is holding back the urge to over-explain and letting the other person show their hand as your self-confidence anchors in information, not anxiety. Motivational quotes remind you that consistency beats instant shine. Results show up when patience waits for the right question before the best answer. Emotional neutrality isn't coldness, it's freedom of choice, deciding when to speed up, when to pause, and when to give an inch to earn a mile later. Unreadability keeps people from predicting your patterns, reducing attempts to corner you with deadlines, urgency, and final offers. Mature entrepreneurship turns silence into margin. Those who avoid overpromising deliver better and charge fairly. Consistency is not breaking character under pressure. Always calm, clear, economical with words. Self-confidence becomes gravity. It pulls the negotiation toward your center without raising your voice. Technically, silence opens cognitive space. The other person fills it with justifications, fears, and numbers you didn't even ask for. That's psychological leverage. Unreadability keeps the force field up. Implicit limits, few revelations, focus on the essentials. Emotional control prevents leaks. No promising out of insecurity, no conceding out of guilt, discipline over impulse. This sustains long-term entrepreneurship, where motivational phrases are reminders to maintain the consistency of the strategic character. And if silence is a weapon, the predator bites only once, at the right moment when collective fear creates the perfect discount. He compares the market to a savanna. Those who chase everything come back tired and empty-handed. Those who watch the wind and the herd's footsteps save energy and capture the right moment. In entrepreneurship, patience isn't delay. It's probability calculation with emotional control and discipline to refuse pointless battles. Motivational quotes provide breath, but the plan's consistency produces repeatable results. Self-confidence here is knowing how to wait without falling apart inside. And when collective fear hits, prices open doors the impatient never see. He teaches how to spot signals: widespread panic, oversupply, distracted attention, loud noise, stable fundamentals. the perfect combo to buy time, assets, or mental space cheap. Discipline avoids entering out of boredom. Emotional control prevents exits driven by dread. Strategic entrepreneurship sets objective triggers. If it drops this much, I buy. If it rises this much, I exit. Protecting self-confidence from improvisation. Motivational phrases remind you the game is a marathon, not a sprint. Results show up when waiting has a method, not when luck just happens to hit. He jokes, a predator doesn't bark, he bites once and chews slowly. That's consistency applied to profit. Patience frees you from the addiction to urgency and turns anxiety into schedule. Emotional control keeps others from dictating your timing. Discipline keeps you on track when the feed screams, run. Self-confidence grows every time you honor your own protocol. And if the right moment exists, the next step is positioning yourself to multiply every bite with real leverage. He explains that moving from selling hours to building systems is the turning point that separates income from linear effort. In entrepreneurship, leverage is making ideas. Capital, people, and technology work in sync to multiply results. Discipline creates processes. Consistency keeps the wheel spinning. Emotional control prevents vanity-driven decisions. Motivational quotes remind you of the vision, but self-confidence in the system design sustains growth. Positioning is choosing the right hill before planting your flag. He lays out the logic. High-margin product, scalable distribution, narrative with authority. 3 pillars that together make the funnel look like magic, though it's engineering. Leverage is saying no to what's heavy and yes to what's replicable. Mature entrepreneurship measures CAC, LTV, churn, cash cycle, because numbers protect self-confidence from theater. Consistency shows up in weekly routines. Optimize, delegate, automate. Results happen when the system delivers even on your bad days. That's the test. Positioning shapes who you attract and how much you can charge. Clarity of promise, differentiation, and social proof stabilize price and demand. Emotional control prevents pivoting at every comment. Discipline holds the thesis until meaningful data changes it. Motivational quotes build patience, but architecture builds compound growth. Self-confidence becomes a compass when the market shakes, keeping consistency in execution. And with the ground set, the invisible force that moves money enters the stage. The narrative people choose to believe. He states, money follows compelling stories before it follows flawless spreadsheets. Perception creates demand. Demand creates price. Price creates power. In entrepreneurship, narrative is the thread that stitches product, promise, and persona into the same mental picture. Motivational quotes help you keep direction, but what converts is consistency in the story and the repeated delivery. Self-confidence sustains the tone. Emotional control prevents isolated criticism from derailing the message. Result? Higher margins when the market buys meaning, not features. Illusion isn't unethical deception. It's framing, choosing which slice of truth to emphasize with discipline to stay consistent over time. The mentor explains that strong brands sell destiny, not features. Who you become by using this. Strategic entrepreneurship designs symbols, rituals, and a unique language, generating automatic recognition and preference. Consistency makes that language familiar and trustworthy. And a good story opens doors a technical pitch never will. He warns, narrative without backbone collapses. That's why the game is balancing promise and proof. Emotional control prevents overpromising. Discipline ensures the experience confirms the story. Motivational quotes may open the show, but the main act is the delivery that produces visible results. Self-confidence becomes acoustics. It amplifies the right voice and muffles the noise. And if the story sells, the next step is substituting direct labor with system design that captures that value. He teaches how to replace direct work with system design, where ideas, influence, and organized teamwork produce results at scale. In entrepreneurship, that means leaving operation and stepping into orchestration, less manual execution, more direction and decision quality. Discipline creates replicable processes. Consistency maintains standards. Emotional control resists the urge to do it all. Motivational quotes become focus reminders, and self-confidence supports detachment from microtasks. The effect is simple. More value per hour invested. Substitution is also turning perception into economic value. Authority creates trust shortcuts. Trust reduces friction, and less friction increases conversion rates. The mentor recommends building influence assets, evergreen content, playbooks, trainings, communities, everything that works for you while you sleep. Winning entrepreneurship measures impact per unit of effort. What multiplies here without me? Consistency in delivery strengthens the brand and lets you charge for the system, not the time. Results become more predictable once the machine is built. He provokes. If you disappeared for 30 days, would your operation collapse or keep growing? Substituting yourself means creating redundancies, intermediate leadership, and documented standards that protect the business from moods and surprises. Emotional control avoids the addiction to centralization. Discipline ensures regular audits. Motivational quotes lift team morale, and the leader's self-confidence sets the cultural tone. And when the system runs without you, the time comes to explore market inefficiencies and capture value where others waste it. He shows that profit hides in inefficiencies, slow bureaucracy, collective fear, wasted attention, poorly built processes. That's where competent entrepreneurship finds gold. Emotional control prevents the urge to grab everything. Discipline focuses on asymmetries with the best risk-reward ratio. Motivational quotes keep the energy flowing, but consistency in the funnel and analysis brings results. Self-confidence helps you act even when consensus doubts. And proper timing turns a good decision into a brilliant one. Exploiting is capturing value where others throw it away. Scattered attention becomes audience. Idle stock becomes irresistible offer. Forgotten data becomes precise segmentation. The mentor suggests objective playbooks, map waste, measure impact, prototype quickly, scale what pays. Entrepreneurship here is opportunity engineering, not lottery. Consistency in small tests builds a library of repeatable wins. Compound results come when the team learns to spot patterns before the majority. Timing is also knowing when to stop. Realized gains protect self-confidence and fund the next capture. Emotional control keeps euphoria from stealing profit and fear from canceling winning strategies. Discipline sets clear boundaries: when to enter, when to exit, when to iterate. Motivational quotes keep the vision alive through inevitable ups and downs. And if timing is an art with a ruler, the next element is mastering the power of holding back, revealing little to negotiate a lot. He advises revealing little and at the right moment. Information is bargaining power, and unnecessary exposure becomes vulnerability and cost. In entrepreneurship, retention builds mystique, reduces attacks, and increases genuine interest. Emotional control prevents the impulse to tell everything for validation. Discipline defines what is public, private, and strategic. Motivational quotes remind you of the vision, but consistency in filtering protects self-confidence and results. Retention isn't hiding the essentials. It's sequencing value delivery to maximize impact and learning. The mentor teaches using checkpoints. Proof first, detail later, allowing adjustments without burning reputation. Mature entrepreneurship uses NDAs, clear scopes, and staged releases to maintain competitive advantage. Consistency in communication patterns builds predictability and trust. Results show up when each disclosure serves a specific purpose in the funnel. He adds, excessive exposure feeds stage syndrome and sabotages focus. With withholding, the team works in silence, expectations anchor in actual output, and narrative gains density. Emotional control helps handle external pressure for updates. Discipline maintains the timeline, and self-confidence avoids empty comparisons. And yes, every law has a shadow. That's why it's vital to map risks, costs, and limits before the blade cuts your own hand. He warns, every law charges a toll. Silence can turn into isolation, patience into inaction, narrative into backfire if the promise exceeds the delivery. In entrepreneurship, discipline is the handbrake that prevents skidding, and consistency is the power steering that keeps the line during criticism. Emotional control avoids reactive responses to noise, preserving self-confidence and focus on results. Motivational quotes remind you of the why, but method protects the how. The mentor reinforces, risk isn't eliminated, it's managed. He proposes safeguards: minimum contact cadence to break isolation, objective entry, exit criteria to avoid inaction, and promise audits to calibrate narrative. Robust entrepreneurship documents risks, creates contingency plans, and assigns clear owners to critical decisions. Discipline sustains execution under pressure, and consistency cures short-term anxiety. Self-confidence grows when the team honors protocols, not when it improvises. Results improve when errors become data instead of guilt. He ends the warning with dry humor. Every sharp blade cuts bread and fingers. Whoever holds it right eats. Whoever holds it wrong bleeds. Emotional control reduces the cost of vanity. Discipline reduces the cost of chaos. Motivational quotes keep morale alive while analysis addresses the cause. Mature entrepreneurship accepts light and shadow on the same path without theatrics. And since we're talking risk, the next step is shaping the identity of the operator who watches, calculates, and acts when victory is already likely. He describes the identity of the ghost, observes a lot, calculates in silence, and acts only when the outcome is already probable, protecting energy and focus. In entrepreneurship, that means solid routines, daily short planning, weekly checkpoints, monthly reviews. Discipline takes care of rhythm. Consistency ties the process together. Emotional control keeps noise at bay. Motivational quotes act as anchors of intention, and self-confidence grows from promises kept. Results come when the inner character matches the external plan. Practical application in conversations. Listen twice as much as you speak. Ask with precision, confirm in writing, and negotiate deadlines in your favor. In negotiations, calm anchoring, few concessions, strategic pauses to collect data. In relationships, clear boundaries, explicit reciprocity, zero reactivity. In business, fixed agendas, visible indicators, and rituals of continuous improvement. Consistency and discipline turn good intentions into predictability. In conflicts, the mentor advises, separate facts from interpretations, choose battles that pay, and use silence as a buffer. Mature entrepreneurship avoids heroism and prefers systems that prevent fires. Emotional control avoids unnecessary escalations. Self-confidence supports unpopular decisions when data demands them. Motivational quotes remind you of the vision while processes deliver. And when identity is firm, the gaze shifts to the horizon, building something that outlasts the founder. He defines legacy as a fortress that survives the founder. Assets that don't depend on a face, structures that don't collapse during vacations, and succession rules that protect culture and cash. In entrepreneurship, legacy is continuity architecture. Governance, standards, audits, reserves. Discipline and consistency ensure the system functions without daily heroes. Emotional control avoids decisions that burn the future for short-term wins. Steady self-confidence keeps focus on compound results over decades. Building legacy requires documenting the method, training successors, and creating incentives that reward behavior, not improvisation. The mentor suggests stability funds, crisis protocols, and a living business library, playbooks, cases, decisions, errors, corrections. Entrepreneurship happens when knowledge stops being the secret of one person and becomes the routine of a team. Motivational quotes may inspire the journey, but discipline writes the story. Durable results require processes that teach the next generation how to think like owners. Finally, legacy isn't just assets, it's reputation. A brand that survives cycles because it keeps its promise, price, and posture even when the wind changes. Consistency in values and metrics builds intergenerational trust. Emotional control protects culture from crises and trends. Collective self-confidence grows when everyone understands the game and their role in it. And with the 13 topics applied, the board stops being unfair and becomes a field of forces you've learned to shape. If you made it this far, you already have the engineering to make money obey power. Cold strategy, disciplined execution, consistent habits, emotional control under pressure, and self-confidence backed by numbers. That's applied entrepreneurship, not pretty theory. The decision is simple now. Will you keep reacting to the market or operate with method, using motivational quotes as sparks and processes as the engine that produces predictable results? What will you cut this week to gain real focus and increase your consistency? What daily routine will shield your emotional control and protect your decisions? What leverage asset will you start building today so you can stop selling hours? Which inefficiency will you exploit in the next 7 days to generate fresh cash? What part of your strategy will you retain and reveal at the right time to maximize bargaining power? If this content hit you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep learning about strategic entrepreneurship.